When wage labor became the dominant economic arrangement in Europe, many former peasants refused outright, choosing instead to live as vagabonds, landless, itinerant, criminalized by the state, rather than sell their time to someone else. To understand why, you have to understand what was taken from them. Silvia Federici traces this history in Caliban and the Witch. Under feudalism, most European peasants lived on land they could meaningfully use as their own. The system they lived within was still hierarchical and coercive. They were bound to the manor, owed labor or rent to the lord, and had limited legal autonomy. But within that structure, peasants had direct access to common land, shared pastures, forests, water. They governed these resources collectively. They had substantial control over how they organized their labor, and they kept most of what they produced. Subsistence was not mediated by a wage. Starting in the 1400s and accelerating over the next several centuries, the nobility and gentry began enclosing common land across Europe, fencing off fields and pastures that peasants had used for generations and claiming them as exclusive private property. In England alone, Parliament, largely controlled by the landowning class, passed over 5,000 enclosure bills, privatizing millions of acres. Peasants who had worked that land for generations were displaced, often with nothing, or offered plots so small and poor they were effectively useless. What this meant in practice was the destruction of a way of life. Without land, a person could no longer grow food, graze animals, or provide for themselves directly. Those who accepted the wage entered a cycle in which they sold their labor to someone else in order to earn the money to buy back the very things that had previously been theirs: food they once grew, shelter on land they once lived on. Many people refused. They chose to live as vagabonds rather than submit to wage work. They tore down the fences that enclosed the commons. They organized uprisings and formed communes. Understanding what had been taken from them and what the wage represented, less opportunity than subjugation, they resisted at every stage. States met that resistance with force. Vagrancy laws made it illegal to be landless and unemployed, punishable by whipping, branding, forced labor, even execution. A person could be dispossessed of everything and then brutalized for having nowhere to go. Uprisings were crushed militarily. So when we hear the word transition to describe the shift from feudalism to capitalism, we should understand it as a euphemism. This was a dispossession carried out through force against sustained resistance over centuries. The world it produced, where we sell our time to be able to pay to live on the land beneath us, is not ancient, inevitable, or permanent. It was built, and we can build something else.